Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go over interrogative words. They're words that are often used at the beginning of the sentence to form questions, so words that form questions. Let's see. So often used at the beginning of a sentence to form questions. Let's just put a little star there. Okay. So here are some of them. Palabras interrogativas, como, how, or what. ¿Cómo estás? How are you? ¿Cómo eres? What are you like? So you can see that como can translate as to what and how. ¿Cuál is which? ¿Cuál es tu libro? Which is your book? And they make it agree. So I might say, you know, if I said, ¿Cuál es tu libro? Which one's your book? Or if I said, maybe you have two notebooks sitting out, there's a bunch of notebooks on the table, and I might say, ¿Cuáles son tus cuadernos? So if I ask you to identify, so with which you're identifying, if I'm asking you to identify one thing, it's cuál. If I'm asking you to identify multiple things, it's cuáles. Or I might say, ¿Cuáles son los capitales de los estados, de todos los estados de los Estados Unidos? Or ¿cuáles son los capitales de los Estados Unidos? So what are the capital, which are the capitals? So if I want you to identify multiple things, we're going to use cuáles instead of cuál. So it can be written as cuál or cuáles. Okay. ¿Cuándo, when, cuándo es tu clase de español? When's your Spanish class? ¿Cuánto is how many, how much? And we've got ¿cuántos estudiantes hay? Because you're asking for how many, you're going to have it agree with however many, the thing that you want to know the quantity of. Here I want to know the quantity of students, so you use cuántos. If I want to know how many tables are in the classroom, I'm going to say ¿cuántas mesas hay en la clase? And I switch it to cuántas. Or I might say, how much money do you have? ¿Cuánto dinero tienes? So the thing that you want to know the quantity of determines which cuánto you use. Okay, this estudiantes is what told me to use cuántos. So you actually have cuánto. I keep doing that, sorry. Cuánta. And then you'd have cuántos, and also cuántas. So those are all of your options for how many, how much. So if I want to know how much milk did you drink today? ¿Cuánta leche bebiste hoy? How much money do you have? ¿Cuánto dinero tienes? How many students are in the class? ¿Cuántos estudiantes hay en la clase? How many tables are in the class? ¿Cuántas mesas hay en la clase? ¿Dónde is where? ¿Dónde hay una silla? Where's their chair? ¿De dónde is from where? ¿De dónde es Pedro Almodóvar? Or ¿de dónde es Almodóvar? And you would say es de España, so you give where the person's from. ¿A dónde is to where? And most of the time it's going to go with ir. Vas is a form of ir. We have not studied that verb. It goes with ir, so you'll see it accompanied with voy, vas, va, vamos. Vice, van. So if you see, if we're trying to figure out which of these words to use, if you see one of those words in your blank, next to your blank, you're probably going to want a donde, because they all mean to go. ¿Por qué is why? ¿Por qué no hay clase? Why is there no class? ¿Qué is what? ¿Qué estudias? What do you study? ¿Quién is who? And again, ¿quién has a plural form as well. So if I say ¿quién es ella?, you'd use ¿quién?, But if I want to say, ¿quiénes son los profesores de español? That's where you would make it plural. If you're trying to identify one person, like ella, then you use just plain old quién. If you're trying to identify multiple people, use quiénes. And then there's also de quién, which is how you show possession. Of whom, or whose. So whose pen is this? De quién es el bolígrafo? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do some practice. Here, your friend is from Colombia and would like to know about your Spanish class. Answer her questions by matching them with the most appropriate answer. So these are our answer choices. ¿Cómo es el profesor? When you're told ¿cómo es means what is somebody like. ¿Cómo estás is how are you doing? Here, I'll show you again. So if you look here, ¿cómo estás is how are you, and ¿cómo eres is what are you like. Actually, let's go ahead and stick it. So we could stick it in here, I think. I'll just stick it down here. Okay, so ¿cómo es el profesor? We want to know what he's like. Muy serio y perfeccionista, right? Muy serio y perfección. You know what? Hold on, let me cut it a little better. There we go. Okay. ¿Cuándo es la clase? So now you're being asked ¿cuándo? Whoops. Okay, so ¿cuándo? If we go back over here to our interrogative words, here is ¿cuándo? ¿Cuándo means when. So when is class? Class would be a la 1 de la tarde. Okay. ¿Quién siempre saca buenas notas? So the word we're looking at now is quién. Okay. If I go back out here, quién is down here. Quién means who. So we want to know who gets good grades. So who? Ana de Rosa. And for some reason this went back. Okay. ¿Cuántos estudiantes hay? So now I'm looking at ¿cuántos? Keeps wanting to go back. So if I look back out here at my interrogative words, ¿cuánto is right here. ¿Cuánto means how many or how much. So how many students are there? 23 makes the most sense. Okay. And ¿dónde es la clase? If I go over here to my interrogative words and I look at ¿dónde? ¿Dónde means where. So where, I mean, this was the only option left, but it makes sense. It's in Horton Hall. Okay. Based on the question and answer, select the correct interrogative word from the choices given. So Pablo blank te llamas, Marta me llamo Marta. So Pablo asked her, what's your name? So we already know that we form that phrase with como, right? ¿Cómo te llamas? Pablo, blank sillas hay en la clase, hay 20 sillas. So she's giving you a quantifiable number. Then you're probably wanting to know how many chairs. And remember, cuánto has to agree with the word it describes. So if we're talking about sillas, and sillas is a feminine plural word, then the cuantos that we want is cuantas because they match up, right? They both have that AS. Okay. Maybe I can put a little arrow. So you can see that's why they match up. Okay, so Pablo Blanc estudias español es muy interesante. So the reason he gives is that it's very interesting. So you probably want to know why. Why do you study Spanish? ¿Por qué is why? Oops. Okay, then here, Pablo, blank is la fiesta es el viernes a las 9. So here you're giving a time and a date. So you probably want to know when is the party, which is cuando. Okay, Pablo blank viven tus padres, viven en Puerto Rico. So now you're given a place. So what do you want to know about the parents living? Probably where do they live? They live in Puerto Rico. So ¿dónde? And then Pablo says, blank is a profesor de español, is a professor Sanchez. Here you're trying to identify someone and it's only one person, so you would use quién. Who is el profesor de español is a professor Sanchez. And Pablo says, blank hay en tu mochila, hay unos libros, un lápiz y un cuaderno. What's in your book bag? Okay.